What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Burke, aka Dansweight here, and welcome back to more from the Final Fantasy VII Attack Only challenge. In the previous part we made a lot of progress and ended with a boss battle against a double-headed schizo and got the win. Now from here, things are going to get more intense as we start to fight some of the more dangerous bosses in the game and visit some of the more difficult areas, culminating in the first battle that ended up giving me true problems, like real problems in this challenge. So stay tuned and I hope you will enjoy this next episode of the challenge. Thank you guys as always for the support. The feedback has been tremendous as always. Everybody on Patreon picking up that early access, everyone viewing and liking the videos. It has been a really great series once again. And I'm looking forward to bringing you guys more once this series is complete. So let's get into it and talk more about the Final Fantasy VII Attack Only challenge. We ended the previous session inside of Gaia's Cliff, and we are continuing our climb up towards the northern crater, in which of course there are going to be some particularly big events in the story, and we are going to be preparing for a showdown against Jenova once again. Now the first major thing to note here is that this is one of those occasions where you are forced to change your party, and these are some of the things that I definitely had the least remembrance and knowledge of heading into this challenge. Like, at what point will the party be forced to change and how will that change happen? And as you can see, Tifa is now in the party. She's 8 levels lower than Cloud and she is not a long range specialist, and she has been forced into the team. So we have little choice here. We need to continue with Tifa in the party, and so we're going to have to go with Cloud and his long range materia, and then put Barret in of course as our next character. So because I do not have a second long range materia here, I am pretty much forced to keep at least one person in the front row if I want to do maximum damage. Now, the part where it gets really crappy is because I didn't see this move coming, and as a result I've not cared about Tifa's weapons, and I've sold certain weapons or just not picked up weapons that could have been beneficial for Tifa, and as a result she only has a power soul, so she's almost useless against anything of any serious power in this challenge. So for the time in which she's going to be on the front line, this is not looking too good. Defensively she'll be okay I think, especially if we stick her on the back row. We give her some good armor and we give her some materia of course that can help boost her stats too. So by and large it is going to be the Cloud and Barret show for the next boss, but Tifa is definitely going to be in the party and we'll do our best to kind of make it through the section in which she has to be a party member. So in the background you can see the kind of preparations I was making. I was obviously chopping and changing around a little bit, seeing what materials could work, like how many HP plus materials do I want to give her, and is it really worth keeping her alive for that long? Because yes, obviously since she's weaker than the rest I can give her more stats to compensate for it using the materia, but if she can't do that much damage, is it really worth keeping her, like focusing her survival over Barret's or Cloud's? Unfortunately it's not. So that's why I did try to boost her up with obviously my materia, but I didn't go too overboard, and if she does get KO'd in a battle then it's not as big a deal. I need to make sure obviously Cloud and Barret stay alive and do the lion's share of the damage. So I'm going to show you guys just a quick random encounter here to give you a general gist of what's going on. You can see that Tifa has been berserked to try and increase her damage output, but regardless of that obviously she's not doing particularly great. Now there is an argument to just put her in the front row anyway, so that at least while she is around she can kind of do as much damage as possible, but for now at least she's doing about, even with berserk, she's doing about a quarter to a third of the damage that Cloud and Barret are doing. But we'll see if that's going to be enough for the next boss battle against Jenova. Now another thing I also forgot was that right here the game gives you a Kaiser Knuckle. Now this is very clever design, because if it is the case that you've been kind of ignoring Tifa, you've not been using her much, and then suddenly she's thrust into the party and like, oh crap, what am I supposed to do now? The game gives you a weapon of at least some benefit here, so that you are able to do more damage if that's necessary. That said, I didn't equip this new weapon that we got because it doesn't have the double materia growth that her current power soul has, so I decided to just keep that on for now. The difference wasn't like huge, it was 16 more attack, which yeah, I'm sure it's going to help, but especially against the random encounters I figured it can't be making the difference between kind of making progress or not. So as you can see from the next random encounter as well, we're generally still pretty comfortable and continuing our showdown towards the next boss. And so here we are once again, my friends, facing off against Jenova as that iconic boss theme kicks in. This time it's Jenova Death, and this is the final Jenova battle. Let's see how we do. Tifa immediately comes in for 239 damage, which is not particularly great. This red light move we're familiar with already. 462 is not that bad. It does get to use it multiple times, which is a little bit annoying. But there you can see that Cloud takes no damage from that one. And Barret heals. So once again, it's a game of elementals against Jenova. But when it comes to Jenova Death, this time it's fire protection that I prioritized. And if you manage to do that, then you can eliminate a lot of the nastiest effects from Jenova. 25,000 HP here, but you can see the three of them together, they're doing at least 2,000 damage, so it's not too bad. Then Tropic Wind comes in, it only hits one character, and it heals Barret. And then once Cloud comes in with a critical as well, we're really starting to motor once again. So it comes in with Silence in an attack-only challenge. This is definitely a move that we want to see. And we can just continue to bombard here. And it looks pretty much like we should be getting this battle done. If you have 0 elemental protection, it's still not too big a deal, I think, because if you compare it to a move like Aqualung from the previous Jenova battle, the moves that it has are just not strong enough, and they're not going to hit the entire party. And so, again, it's looking like a formality here. Even if it can do multiple hits in a row, it's just not going to be strong enough. So let's just keep watching here. Did 3 red lights in a row, which is a little bit rude, but Barret still has full HP, basically, after healing from everything coming towards him. If these red lights hit the entire party, it definitely would have been a much harder battle overall, and it would have changed everything, but as you can see, we are very safe. Tifa's taken a decent amount of damage because she doesn't have the elemental protection here, but other than that, I think she's doing pretty good. So Jenova was generally one of the bosses that I did fear a lot, but honestly I'd forgotten from my first run through how much elemental protection basically nullifies Jenova's attacks in general. I thought surely Jenova's got to have some more like non-elemental stuff that you can't really stop, but doesn't really seem to be the case. A lot of Jenova's biggest threat is just purely elemental based, and so maybe even if on like a blind run you get caught out and you get hit by these and you take the full damage and you lose, I think all it takes is just like a little bit of adjustment and you'll be able to get a win against Jenova. So Jenova ended up being, honestly, quite disappointing on that front in this run. I really did expect more, like difficult battles, battles I'd potentially have to try multiple times, that I wouldn't be strong enough for, but it ended up being pretty much a breeze. So despite Tifa getting a little bit bullied here, she's like an example of what happens if you don't have the right elemental protection. But I mean, Cloud and Barret, they both have full HP here, so absolutely no danger. And there it is, 25,000 HP, Jenova Death finally does die. And it's game over. So yeah, another boss that in the build-up I thought maybe could cause some problems, but once I realized that it was pretty much like fire damage that was the biggest issue, we managed to get the job done. So from here, this is generally just going to be a very story-heavy segment of the game. A lot of things are going to happen. Obviously, Sephiroth's comeback is going to be complete, and Cloud's going to aid him in that. Then we're going to have the whole section with Tifa being imprisoned, and then we have to go and free her. Cloud is going to lose his mind, so a lot of that story-heavy stuff's going to happen, as I have been for this series so far. Obviously, I'm going to be showing you guys bits and pieces, namely like things that I picked up. There'll be some random encounters here and there, just to show you guys like a little kind of progress report on how things are going. And well, of course, there's going to be more bosses to fight along the way. So we thank Tifa for her little cameo in this run. At least you can't say that Tifa wasn't used at all. She did play her part briefly. She's going to go back to the bench now as we return with Cloud for a little while, before obviously things go very wrong in his mind and we have to try to sort things out. We will pick things back up in Junon, where some of the crew have been imprisoned, and again this is quite an interesting little bit because we are going to have Kate Shit fighting together with Barret. So this really is an interesting section of the game, mostly because you are forced to change your party members. Now, because their levels are generally correlated with what you've been doing with your main party members, and so even though Kate Shit is at a lower level, it's not low enough, I think, that's going to cause us a massive problem. But let's see him and Barret in action here. Barret being put immediately to sleep is not good, but as soon as he gets back up, obviously, he's just going to get the job done. I was pretty sure, like, especially against these random encounters, unless we get some really nasty status effects that cause huge problems, Barrett should be able to get the job done and solo it. So he's being put to sleep a lot here, and Kate Sith obviously not doing a lot of damage. But again, looking at the amount of HP that Barrett has, it just seems very unlikely that we were going to be in any real trouble. So those two were absolutely fine, despite being a bit of an odd couple at the moment and not my ideal party for fighting anything. But we got the job done, and so you can see that even when we don't have our full strength squad out there, we're still pretty safe. Thankfully, once we go a little bit further down the line, we get to meet Yuffie again, and so once Yuffie joins the party too, we have two strong long-range party members along with Kate Sith, and so then especially it's even easier and it's not going to be a problem. So we continue the events in Junon with Barrett, Yuffie and Kate Sith as Weapon emerges and the showdown between Weapon and the Sister Ray will begin. And so once those events are complete, Tifa escapes from her shackles, starts to break out, slaps the shit out of Scarlet, and then the airship picks her up, and the team escapes Junon and are back together once again. And so now that we have the airship, of course, we have a higher degree of freedom and can either visit new areas or revisit areas we have in the past, if that's going to be necessary. And so my first port of call with the airship is to actually revisit somewhere I've been before, and it's to go back to Tifa's house so that I can pick up an elemental materia. As you guys have seen already, elemental materia is definitely very useful, both attackingly and defensively, and so it felt like a nice easy pickup here, because there's not exactly a ton of them scattered around this game. So I decided to pick that one up, and then continue onwards. And with that, it was time to head to Mideel. Now, Mideel is another one of those areas where there's a lot of story happening, a lot of dialogue. Once all of that is done, it is time to head towards the hospital/infirmary bit, where we meet a Cloud who is obviously not in the best shape of his life. Now, we can't, of course, immediately get him back in the squad, so this is going to be a cloudless section, which automatically makes things a little more interesting. But since we have our long-range materia, and we have Barrett, Vincent, and Yuffie who can naturally fight from distance anyway, that's at least 4 party members out of everyone who's left who is able to do full damage from the back row. So I figured even if I have to swap and change the teams around, I should have a decent distribution of damage options here. And so before we know it, we've lost another party member as well. Thankfully, it's not a long-range party member, so from here we have to form a new party and continue the story so that we can get Cloud back as soon as possible. So in terms of party structure, a lot of things happen in this section of the game. Cloud is obviously out, Tifa is looking after Cloud, so she's out too, and then Sid is nominated as the new leader of our party. Thankfully, even though he's not naturally a long-range guy, we can stick 2 long-range companions next to him and give him the long-range materia as well. So thankfully we have a decent amount of things available for us here, and so I get this new party set back up, similar to what I had obviously with Cloud. Now Sid is a slight downgrade from Cloud because his level is notably lower and his weapon isn't quite as good at the moment, but I was pretty confident that this team of Sid, Barrett and Vincent should be more than capable of getting the job done. So we arrive in Mideel, and originally the first time through Mideel I actually tried to buy a whole bunch of stuff, and then I decided that that was a bad idea, so I reloaded the save about 10 minutes later after proceeding with the story a little bit, so that I could spend my money a little bit more wisely second time round. Basically last time the purchases I made were not the most efficient and I spent money on characters that I didn't need to, and as a result I didn't have enough money left to buy Sid his partisan. And the fact that Sid was going to become our leader and be someone I couldn't swap was something I didn't remember, and so I didn't buy the weapon that I should have for him. That would definitely help for this next section. So I definitely fixed that second time round and got what I needed while I was in Mideel. Thankfully, one thing I was doing, even though I didn't remember about the whole party switching stuff, I did make sure I had the item guide alongside me so that I could remember to pick up certain items and pieces of equipment that could be useful to me in the run. And what I did see was that we have the curse ring that is available in Mideel, but you have to get it before its destruction, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So I did make sure to pick up the curse ring because I figured it does give you a really big power boost, and even though it comes at the cost of giving you death sentence, obviously if the random encounter / boss battle is short enough, then it's not going to matter too much that you have death sentence, and so I figured it's definitely worth it. Since I'm quite OP anyway, it might help me just get through encounters all the more quickly if I have something powerful like the curse ring. So it's something I did pick up, and once I left Mideel I did equip it on Barrett to give it a test. It's been a while, but we find ourselves back in the Corel region, and the first random encounter allowed me to see the effects of the curse ring. and immediately I saw a 60 counter, which seemed like plenty of time. Obviously the random encounters here are very easy, and so it's never going to take that long anyway. And well, to be honest, they're so easy that Barrett's not going to really have to do anything here in terms of having something like the curse ring. It's not going to benefit. But seeing that there was a 60 count was definitely promising, and it felt like the kind of thing I could keep equipped unless there was some serious, let's say, elemental or stasis effects I needed to protect from, because of course it takes up an accessory slot that could ordinarily be used for something like ribbon. But for now, obviously, to test it out, I decided to keep the curse ring equipped. Before long, we found ourselves at the reactor, and we have the runaway train that we have to chase down. And so this was definitely one of the more intense and fun parts of the main game, but I didn't have any kind of worries in terms of would I be able to do it in time, could I get the huge materia. I'm pretty sure it's not essential that I pass this, but I figured I definitely want to get all of the huge materia that I can, and so we began one of the more fun sections of the game. Obviously we have the countdown timer, so by definition speed is of the essence. Shouldn't once again be a problem because the team is very strong, and while Barrett even has the curse ring now, and so I felt like surely at this stage we must be able to blaze through here pretty quickly. So let's see how this goes and whether there was going to be any kind of struggle to get this done before the timer runs out. So first encounter, let's see what happens. Singular enemy is always nice, helps us do things more quickly. Let's see how many hits. 1 hit, 2 hits. I mean, fair play for even surviving 2 hits at this stage. I mean, I've been so OP that even that doesn't happen. There's 3 hits, counter attack, putting in work. And so in no time at all, we defeated the first enemy. And it's a hop, skip and a jump to the next one. Now this time it's 2 of them, but shouldn't be a problem. We did have some stasis effects coming in for Barrett, and he got a nice critical there as well. Berserk for Sid and Vincent as well. I'm just trying to get obviously as much damage in as I can at this stage. But these guys are not going to last very long. And it's on to battle number 3, and this time we have this Iron Giant looking guy. I don't know if it's specifically called Iron Giant, this one. But first hit comes in for 1,000, and I was expecting some decent damage here, but it wasn't that bad. So it gives Barrett maybe about a 20-30% increase in his damage output, which I will gladly take if there's pretty much no downside to it. This guy especially, we're not too worried in terms of stasis effects, we just really want to do as much damage as we can. So I think for this battle especially, I think the Berserk status definitely helps. It would have taken maybe an extra 5 hits if I didn't have it, but you can see from the general speed here that it's looking pretty likely that we're not going to have any trouble. And the next battle we have this flyer here. I thought maybe there's a chance that we're going to struggle to hit it, but straight away with 2,100 because Sid's going to do more damage to flying enemies. 3,300 damage. I mean, it's got a decent chunk of HP, you've got to give it that. But Barrett's completely just like nullifying the damage that it's trying to do. And a nice critical there as well. Just like really, really big damage here. But I do have to say, like, it's been, what, just over 3 minutes so far? So we still have plenty of time. But these guys are beefy, they have a decent amount of HP. And so with Berserk, it probably would have taken us an extra maybe couple of minutes, 2.5 minutes, something like that. But you can see how quickly I made it to this particular point. So I think you have to assume that even without Berserk, we'd still have enough time to get this done. It's literally just this one guy. Let's take him down. 43 damage, I mean, no chance. So you can see, I mean, we have plenty of time to spare here. There's pretty much 0 risk of anything going wrong in terms of time. So I can pretty confidently say that even without Berserk, if you're trying to do this more like no Berserk kind of style, then you're still going to have enough time to do it. And so I will spare you the rest of this shenanigans. We do manage to stop the runaway train, and we get our first huge materia. Then from here, there is some business to be done in Fort Condor in order to get another one. And again, I will skip this stuff because it's one of the more boring ones. We do get the huge materia here, and we move on. And so having picked up those first 2 huge materias, it's time to head back to Medeal to check in on Cloud. And as we all know, from there, chaos ensues. And we end up in a battle we don't really want against Ultimate Weapon. So this will be a test to see what happens against a truly, truly powerful enemy. We're doing good damage though, 1,100. I mean, defensively it seems similar to the stuff we've been facing. but it can hit us with much more powerful attacks than our most recent encounters. Quake 2 comes in, and 726, so despite the protections that we have, it's a pretty decent amount. Now, Barrett, as you noticed, took 0 damage because he was prepared with the right equipment that's going to nullify that earth damage, but that swipe alone did 1000 damage. So you're starting to see that up against something of the level of ultimate weapon, obviously we're in a little bit more danger. Ultimate beam comes in. This was worrying. Yep, 1000 all round. So if this battle takes like too long, obviously we're gonna really struggle here, and we're not gonna be able to stay in the fight. So we're down to about half HP for everybody here. And so we got the job done. With this one, it's more about survival. Basically, the storyline boss battle against Ultimate Weapon is going to have a fixed attack pattern. It's going to do Quake 2, it's going to do Ultimate Beam, and then flee and fly away. So provided that you can survive all of those attacks, then you will be able to proceed through. And as you guys can see, we definitely managed to survive. And so unfortunately, even though we couldn't steal the curse ring as a result of the rules of the challenge, we managed to survive the battle and continue the story. And so with that begins one of the most interesting and one of my favourite parts of the entire game. Now, unfortunately, as it pertains to this challenge, there isn't really anything to show here because it's pretty much all cutscenes and dialogue. But it is, of course, the section where Cloud kind of regains his memories, pieces together the truth, and begins to truly pull everything together to come out of this slump that he's in and rejoin the story and lead us towards the finale. And so thankfully, Cloud makes it through this entire process, and as a result, he rejoins as our party leader, and because there is no getting off of this train, we are going to continue our journey with our favoured front three, Cloud, Barrett, and Vincent. At this point, once again, we have the airship, and so there are other places we could go to, but I decided to head straight for the next part of the story, which is to get to the underwater reactor in Junon and the submarine, because it is going to be one of the more interesting battles coming up once we get to the underwater reactor. And then, if we can clear the events there, we will gain access to the submarine as well, which opens up obviously not only the next part of the story, but an interesting area that I would like to investigate for this run as well. And I will show you guys some encounters en route to the underwater reactor. I mean, fair play, we're doing about 1,500 damage and they're taking hits here. So it's still not one hit KO territory, it's 2 hits. But the fact that they're even managing to take the second hit is like fair play, because my characters are very powerful and they have a combination of like Curse Ring plus Berserk. So they are doing about as much attack damage as they can be doing at the moment, given their level. As we head a little deeper, we get these weird things. Now I noticed I was doing 0 damage with Cloud, but then Vincent came in and did some damage. So I think it's a bit of a luck thing, like it's a bit of an RNG thing. Some hits do 0 damage, some hits do the damage they're supposed to. This is definitely not a battle where I looked up how things work, so Barrett does 0. But I was just like, surely just by brute forcing it and continuing to attack, if Vincent was able to do damage, then I'm sure eventually I'll get the win. So they're a little bit annoying, like with their machine gun counters and stuff, but I seem to just generally be okay. Not exactly sure how it works, but Barrett continues to do 0, and then the missiles come out. Like if these guys were more powerful with their attacks, I guess it could have been truly problematic, but you can see the damage once again, it's not a problem. It seems to be only Vincent that's doing damage, so maybe it's a damage, like a weapon type situation where certain weapons can and certain ones can't. So Confused Missile is definitely more of a problem here, and it does connect, and so suddenly things get a little bit more interesting. It looked like it should have been a formality, despite the 0 damage, but you can see like Cloud is... Confusion is still one of the biggest problems we have in terms of status effects. But thanks to Vincent still doing the damage, we managed to get through. But it was like a little bit of a warning shot. Like if you're not careful and you get confused en masse, of course you're going to have some serious problems. So yeah. I thought maybe because I have Berserk, like Confusion wouldn't override it. But it definitely seems to be the case. So need to watch out. Then we have this kind of stingray floaty boy looking thing. This one is a bit more business as usual since it doesn't have an attack that can confuse everyone, and it doesn't have like that defense to cause 0 damage. So once again, the random encounters other than that one that caused the confusion and could block some of our attacks, we were generally fine. And so we got to the underwater reactor, and it was time to face off against carry armor. Now, what I will say about carry armor is that it's something that I wasn't too worried about. I assumed, yeah, okay, it's an armor type, it's like a mech thing, it's going to be weak to lightning. I'm already doing a lot of damage, and so I should be able to basically take it down. It doesn't have a huge amount of HP, it has 24,000, and so I thought if I could wipe out something like Jinn over that easily, even Schizo with 36,000 HP combined, I think it should be fine. But when I did speak to 4-8 Productions about this whole challenge and the idea and stuff, and we were talking about like which boss do you think I got stuck on, his first guess was carry armor. So carry armor can definitely be a problem for some challenges and for some runs. So let's see how I got on against it. So in terms of the setup, there wasn't really too much I could do here. Basically back row plus sadness, because we are dealing with an enemy that does basically physical / non-elemental damage. There are no state effects per se to worry about either, but the main problem we're going to have is going to be what it does with its arms. And so let's head into the battle now to show you guys what happened in my attempt against the carry armor. Okay, here we go. I decided to leave the curse ring. I got a little bit cocky here, potentially, but I thought let's just see how this goes. I want to destroy the arms first. They've got 10,000 HP each, and I figured maybe if I can do that, I can stop it from grabbing one of my party members, because obviously the fact that it can grab 2 party members is going to be the most damaging and problematic aspect here. So that's why I went for them. They've got 10,000 HP each, and we're doing a lot of damage here, and so I figured that's probably a good idea. The first arm grab comes in, so I couldn't kill one of the arms in time, and unfortunately now we're kind of stuck like this. So let's see how this goes. Big attack there, and one of the arms is dead. So thankfully I was managing to keep up here, and despite grabbing onto Vincent, I was close enough to killing the arm that it made a big difference. So obviously I took Berserk off here so I could target the arms more effectively, and using something like lightning material, which Barret and Cloud are doing in order to do more damage, it was definitely proving to be the trick. So we haven't damaged the main body yet, but I thought with both arms gone, I should have a much better chance of getting this done. Look at that, 4,670 damage on a critical from Barret. So Curse Ring plus extra damage from the lightning element as well. It was all looking good. Now that Lapis Laser is a powerful move. You saw that there's not too much I can do to stop it. That's about as low as I can make the damage at this point. So let's see if I can get the kill before Barret dies from his Curse Ring. It's going to be quite close, but those critical hits are doing wonders for me. And with 24,000 HP, if it was more like 36k, then I might not have got this done in time. But there you go. With 4 left on the counter, well, 3 left on the counter, we managed to take out carry armor. So I think with, again, with a bit of planning, with lightning to help us as well, with the Curse Ring, and generally being quite high level, really assaulting the arms as quickly as possible so that it couldn't grab both of our characters at the same time, I think it was the best way forward. And we managed to defeat an enemy that can be quite notoriously difficult in these challenges. So again, how much of that was like RNG? Maybe it could have come in with Lapis Laser more quickly, or maybe it can use the arm grab more quickly. That I'm not too sure about, because I don't know obviously the in-depth mechanics of the boss. So maybe I was a bit fortunate, and maybe if there was a different set of attacks, then maybe the grab would have happened more quickly, or maybe I wouldn't have survived, and so then I would have had to have reloaded the save and basically kept going until I had RNG that's a bit more like this one. But on my first attempt, I did manage to get through, and with that, it was time for the submarine chase, and finally time for me to gain control of a submarine of my own. Once I had control of the submarine, it was time for me to go down into the depths towards the sunken Gelnica, or the Jelnica, however you pronounce it. We're going to head down there because there are some serious goodies that could be helpful in the future of this challenge. Now, it will be the most difficult area of the game that we've been to so far, where even the random encounters could potentially KO me, and so we're going to have to see if I can make it through. But the rewards there are pretty huge, as you're going to see, so let's head down towards it and see how I fared. this was a place where I definitely made saving a priority, because you just never know what's going to happen with these random encounters down here. So let's have a look at this first room where we can save. Thankfully, I'm glad there's a save room. And then next to that, there is a Heaven's Cloud. So straight away, something of interest for us. Let's take a look at it compared to Organics. Now, it does have way more attack power, but it doesn't have any connected slots, which is a little bit of a shame. As you've been seeing, I have been obviously making use of things like Elemental and Lightning, or Added Effect and Status Effects, so I had to make a decision here, like, is it worth kind of losing another pair, or is it worth having more power? So since I have 3 party members anyway, I can always just give that sort of Elemental to somebody else, and just have Cloud be a bit more of a brute force kind of candidate. So I decided to make use of the Heaven's Cloud, and continue on with that, because we're facing enemies that are definitely much more difficult than the random encounters we've been seeing so far. Since the Curse Ring was generally going well for me so far, I still didn't have any KOs as a result of the battle taking too long. I decided to ride my luck and just keep using the Curse Ring. This could be one place where I do potentially regret that, but I wanted to basically just see how it goes. I've got a save nearby anyway, so I didn't think it was worth going too defensive at this point. Now, pretty soon after you pick up the Heaven's Cloud, you run into these two once again, and so it's battle number 650 against the Turks, specifically against Reno and Rude once again, and they have a decent chunk of HP. Rude has 15,000 and Reno has 20,000, so let's see how we do. Neo Turk Light comes in, and I'm not sure what its effects were supposed to be, but Barrett with a stop straight away, so Rude has been stopped here, and that allows me to focus on him. So it's still unclear what that does. That's going to be one that I'm going to annotate, honestly. But the stop really coming in clutch. You've seen a bunch of times already in this challenge that the added effects plus stop is very good. But we do have confusion, and you've seen how quickly that can cause problems. So we made sure to get Cloud away from that confusion as quickly as we could. So in terms of like the normal attack that Reno does, we're defending very well against it. Barrett's doing a great job, especially because his cover material at this stage is very powerful. And so it's looking pretty good, especially when you incapacitate one of them. It's effectively 3-on-1 right now, and so it's looking good. Now Rude comes back into the fray and immediately puts in an Ice 2, which does about 500 damage, which decent, but again, given our max HP, it's nothing to worry about for now. Neo Turk Light comes in once again. But Rude is pretty slow as well. You can see, I mean, he's only got 1 attack in so far, and he's been back in the battle for some time. So Rude already gets taken out, having only basically used 1 move the entire fight. And that leaves Reno by himself. Now this time, he's not going to flee because Rude left. But for some reason, I'm not sure why this happened. Yeah, we get stuck on this like camera angle. Yeah, for a little while, but thankfully it fixes itself after a time. But he just doesn't have what it takes to take us down. Now the confusion was a problem, but we got rid of it very quickly, and so we were straight back on the attack. And now that we've stopped him as well, it's just an easy run to the finish. So you're seeing once again the value of added effect plus stop. And well, one of the reasons I'm coming down here, obviously people who know the game well will know exactly why I'm coming down here. But for anyone who doesn't, you'll see very soon why it's going to be worth the dangers of this place to get something that I'm after. So yeah, Reno flees as well, and we've won our battle against the Turks once again. So this was a good sign. We haven't had any random encounters yet, but we managed to defeat basically like the boss of this area. And so that was already looking good. And so yeah, it was definitely a good idea to save here before proceeding any further. And from there, we can see what else lies in the depths of the sunken Guernica. We pick up a Spirit Lance, which is pretty cool, but it's hopefully not going to be that necessary. And then we finally, after quite some time, get into our first random encounter here. So this guy looks very creepy to start with. Let's just bombard it and see how we do. Immediately the stop kicks in, so you're still seeing the stop is working really nicely. At this stage, because I don't know these guys' names, I'm trying to use like the help text to see if I can get their names, which is going to make it easier when I'm doing voiceover. But this guy is literally just says unknown, so fine. This battle against unknown. is going well, just because of that stop hitting. And there you go. Without it getting to do a single thing, the battle is already over. It's all about them statuses. And well, it's the same for a lot of these kind of games. You've got to make use of them if you can get them. And so you are seeing what I'm after here, and I pick up the Hades materia. So I've been talking about status effects and why they're so useful in a challenge like this. Added effect plus stop has been doing great work, and now I have the Hades materia. This is one that is really nasty for enemies because it carries with it a multitude of status effects. So if you pair it with added effect, you can inflict all kinds. I'm going to put the full list as an annotation because again I don't remember it, but literally like poison, darkness, probably like slow stop, confusion, like it's basically all the status effects that you can potentially inflict on an enemy. So it's a great thing to have. And so that's one of the main reasons I want to come down here. Then we have this encounter that looks like Bottom Swell's cousin, and it comes in with a Viper Breath, 429. It's that kind of range where again, yeah, like you can tell it's a step up, but it's not something that's too scary for now. I did unequip the Curse Ring, as you can see from Barrett, just to be sure here. I felt like it was probably a bad idea at this stage. But still, we're looking pretty good. The enemies here do have big chunks of HP, as you're seeing. Even though I am doing a ton of damage, they're not exactly being taken out like 2 hits or 3 hits here. And so it would take us a little while. And well, another reason of course I want to come down here despite all of the treasures is because it's a very good leveling spot. Because these are high level enemies, you are going to get a decent chunk of AP/experience points. So it's a nice place to hang out if you want to get yourself like a relatively quick 3 to 5 levels for the battles ahead. And so you can see again, no threat here from this encounter either. And we are looking good as we basically head towards level 50 for the party. Then we pick up Outsider. Originally I didn't even know what this was, so as you can see I'm kind of scrolling through trying to find what it is. And it's a weapon for Vincent. So let's have a quick look at what it can do. And there you go. It's even better than what he currently has. So it's another nice weapon and worth coming down for. Just like the sheer amount of slots is really cool. But he is missing that, so it's something we're going to have to fix. And then we get the High Wind. So not only did we get the Spirit Lance, we also got the High Wind as well. And so with that, we basically finish things up in the Sunken Jelnica, and we are good to go. Now, is this the final encounter that we're missing? Yes, it is. Okay, so this is another random encounter. Let's see what happens against this guy. Comes in with some big status effects here. That ultimately do a whole lot of nothing because he's got a ribbon. So we can just keep attacking here. But again, if you don't have ribbon in this area, thankfully we've picked up 2 already. And so at least 2 out of 3 of our characters have ribbon. Then you're going to be in trouble. And then, well, I guess if you are having a lot of trouble, then you have the option of pairing the Hades materia with added status, with added effect. And if you put that on your armor, then you can basically have close to 3 ribbons on your team. So this guy does have a confusion attack. And this is again why if you don't have the status protection, you can get yourself in trouble very, very quickly. So Cloud, once again, he seems to be targeted quite often for confusion. It seems to be him that's getting hit with this quite a lot. And we haven't had a chance yet. I'm basically just continuing on to see if I can just finish this battle before Cloud does anything problematic. And we do have the tentacle ability as well that could knock him out of it. But there you go. Barrett's cover is working against him, and I figured, no, I have to sort this out and bring him back. And there you go. Barrett has been KO'd. So I took this bit a little bit lax. I should have healed Barrett properly here. It was definitely not a good idea. But the critical there from Cloud was good, and we managed to win the fight. So, yeah, provided that you're prepared and you don't take too many liberties, this play should be absolutely fine. Just make sure you've got that status protection, and if someone does get confused, you have to make sure you deal with it as quickly as possible. So now there was a mistake that I made here. There was a weapon that I could have gotten in the Jelnica, which is, of course, Yuffie's Conformer. It's her ultimate weapon. So I made a mistake and I forgot that you could get that one. And for some reason I couldn't pick it up, like I must have missed something. And so I came to Wutai just because I knew that there was a few more goodies that I could pick up here. And I did get the Oritsuru weapon for Yuffie here, just going into the cabin and clearing out some of the flames. And so I did get a powerful weapon for Yuffie, but her ultimate weapon was still in the Sunken Jellica, and I forgot to grab that one for now. But since she's not a main party member at the moment, it's not the end of the world, but I definitely do need to go back there if I want the Conformer in the future. And so those were the 2 detours that I did. I went to the Sunken Jellica and I got everything that was necessary for the current team that I have. And then I went to Wutai just for a little detour to pick up a couple little extras. And with that, it was time to go to Rocket Town and have Sid achieve his dreams of piloting a ship into space. The random encounters along the way to try and get onto the rocket are not that big a deal. But there is one boss battle that we do have to face, and that is against Rude once again for the 2nd time in this episode. Now, since we defeated a harder version of Rude, I think it's not going to be a surprise to anybody that this version was not that big a problem. But let's see it in action anyway. Barrett pushing almost 6,000 HP at this stage, which is pretty insane. Now, those guys, at least they took a hit, which is impressive, and well, they did manage to land asleep on Sid, which was not great. And well, with Barrett covering as well, it makes it a bit harder to wake him up, which is a little bit odd. But we're just so overpowered here that it just basically Sid not really getting to do much in this battle, even though it's his moment in the story. But Rude only has 9,000 HP here, so nothing to worry about. And there you can see the power of the added effect plus Hades materia. If some of those stasis hit, the enemies get absolutely destroyed here. So counterattack plus like Hades, added effect material, all of that stuff. The team is just looking absolutely deadly here. And pretty much, especially since Carry Armour was defeated as well, I was really thinking, okay, surely now we must have quite a clear run towards Sephiroth and the end of the game. And well, it's pretty clear that Rude was not going to be able to stop us here. And so we got him out of the way. And with that, it was time to head out towards the stars with Sid, Cloud, and Barrett. The story continues and some very important events are set into motion. We take a little trip to Cosmo Canyon once again to see my main man Bugenhagen, whose emoji is available if you are a member on the Dansgo 8 channel. It's one of my favourite emojis that we've added in recent times, just legendary. Once we meet him and go to the room with the coloured materia, we are able to get Bahamut 0, which I don't think is going to be particularly useful to us, but it's kind of cool to have. Now, this room also is the one where you can start to get like master materials and stuff. Now, that wasn't something that was really going to be a factor here. The amount of grinding necessary to master like every material of a certain colour and all of that kind of stuff, we were going to try and do our best to complete this game without having to resort to any of that stuff. So I didn't spend too long in Cosmo Canyon, and it was back out into the skies to continue the story. I will skip through the next bit because what we need to do is head back to the Forgotten Capital, where Bugenhagen tells us we need a key to the Ancients. Now, of course, we have all of the ingredients that we need, and there are things called guides on the internet which are quite helpful for such a thing in case you forgot, like me, exactly where it was. You can do that, and you can grab the key relatively quickly and progress the story. Once the key to the Ancients is provided, once again the story progresses, and it is time to make our way back towards Midgar, where everything began. But before we can do that, Diamond Weapon emerges from the sea and begins his slow walk towards Midgar. And this, my friends, is where things finally get a little bit interesting. Now, we'd faced Ultimate Weapon, and we were doing decent damage against it. Already we were doing like 1,000 to 1,300 damage. At this stage, I was even stronger, and I was thinking surely this guy's not going to be all that different. It's not even as powerful as Ultimate Weapon. And so surely with a little bit of like Lightning Elemental and just my general power here, I should be able to defeat Diamond Weapon. So then let's see how this encounter went. And so it immediately comes in with that move which does a big fat 0, which is exactly what I want to see. But then I noticed that I did a big fat 0 myself, and I was like, wait, what? This should be easy, right? And then I did another 0. And I did another 0. And I did another 0. And I was like, oh no, this is not looking good. This is not looking good. Because, yeah, okay, it's not damaging me, but I'm in big trouble here. Like, how am I supposed to do damage? And why am I not doing damage? I don't remember this being a problem when I was playing like 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And so, yeah, Diamond Weapon is not taking any damage against this party. And well, if the challenge is attack only, then what the hell are we supposed to do? Because normally, obviously, at this point, you'd just be switching to doing like magic damage or something, or using your summons. And well, neither are an option in this challenge. So where do we go from here is the question. This is something I genuinely was not expecting. I'd completely forgotten that this would be a problem, and I was already thinking way ahead to like, yeah, let's, we can complete the game. We're going to be fighting like the Proud Clod. We're going to be fighting like Hojo. We're going to be fighting Safer Sephiroth. Could that be a problem? And here Diamond Weapon is stomping all over my dreams of trying to complete Final Fantasy VII using attack only. So it's a weird battle because honestly it's not really doing much here. It's healing me up and then it's doing damage to me. So eventually obviously it will kill us because it's doing more damage than it is healing. But I was completely stumped. I had no idea what I was supposed to do because not all of them had elemental attack. I thought maybe it's some kind of thing where it's weak to lightning, but if you try to actually use lightning against it, maybe it has some way of basically nullifying it completely. But not all three of them had lightning in their arsenal, and so some of these were just like pure like normal attacks that should be doing damage that just aren't because it's immune to damage in this state. And so we were at a complete stalemate here. For all intents and purposes, it was a stalemate. This battle could take half an hour, and nothing would change. We would still lose because it's just stuck in this particular loop of us not being able to do damage, and this guy is just stomping and doing that kind of laser style attack. That's all we've got. And so what I will do is I will leave things here because this was not some kind of quick fix solution where either I just gave up on the challenge, or I completely just broke the rules just in order to get through the boss, or I figured it out instantly. It was none of those things. And so what we will do in the next episode is I will dedicate some time to talking about the one boss that truly gave me a massive problem in this challenge, and that is Diamond Weapon, as you can see. So thank you all for watching. I hope you are continuing to enjoy the content. As always, I will be providing early access on Patreon, and thank you to everyone that's been joining over the course of this series. You guys have been a massive help. It's a bit of a tough time at the moment for content creators. Ad revenues are not doing so hot, and it's been a bit difficult to generate views more recently. And so stuff like Patreon and memberships and such have really been helping us to stay stable in a very unstable business during these kinds of times. So thank you all for watching. I will be back for the next episode with the conclusion of this battle against Diamond Weapon. So do not miss that one. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching. Take care.